As kids, we're taught to never talk to strangers on the internet and never get into strangers' cars. However, now in 2020, we summon strangers from the internet and get into their cars on a daily basis without thinking twice. Since Uber came into the scene in 2009, the rideshare industry transformed and revolutionized the way people make money, with many companies and apps following suit and using the same business model. Be your own boss, set your own hours, work when and if you want, take as many vacation days as you'd like. These are some of the advantages of being a rideshare driver. My next guest knows all about this, with over 6 years in the industry and over 30,000 rides to his name. We're about to find out what a rideshare driver does. Hi, I'm Red Younger, and this is It's My Job to Know Yours. Today, we have the pleasure of sitting down with David Herb. David, thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your schedule to be here. It means a lot.
It's my pleasure, Red. I'm glad you invited me.
Of course. I mean, first of all, on this show, we tend to interview a lot of really, really interesting, unique type of jobs. However, everybody knows what Uber, Lyft, rideshare. It's very, very common, but I think that it's probably one of the most fascinating jobs in the world, even if it is considered considerably a more mainstream job, right? It's not as rare, but it is so unique. The experiences that you have, the things that you go through as a rideshare driver. I have plenty of friends who are rideshare drivers as well, and just the stories that I hear, that they go through, the things that you see, the things that you happen in your car, outside your car on a daily basis. It's got to be just fascinating. Even just talking to you earlier today, and when we met, I could talk to you for hours.
And I could talk for hours.
Well, you know what? I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you because, I've been wanting to interview a rideshare driver for the longest time, and I reached out to a mutual friend, and I was like, I'm looking for someone in the business who's been in it for a minute, someone who really knows their way around a steering wheel. And they were like, I know the guy, David Herb. You got to contact him. He's been, doing this for a long time. ABC did a whole report on you as heroes during the pandemic, which we'll get to later on in the show. You've been doing this for 6+ years, which, like I said in my intro, Uber only was founded in 2009. So it's a relatively new industry, and there's a lot of turnover in this industry. There's not a lot of people that do it full time. So having you here with over 30,000, what was it, 34,000?
Yeah, just about 34,000 total rides.
34,000 rides. People in your car. I mean, we have so much to cover today, so much to talk about. It's a huge industry. I'm really excited for this episode. I'm excited that you're here. I think we should just jump right in. Tell me about your becoming an Uber driver. How did that come about for you? What were you doing before that?
Before I was an Uber driver, I was a chauffeur with Diana's Limousines out of Littlestown, Pennsylvania. It's near Gettysburg. And one day I was bringing somebody, one of our passengers or clients, to I think the Marriott on 22nd. And as I was dropping him off, I saw a Toyota Prius pull in with a guy in the back in a suit. And he got out of the car, and I could see they weren't friends. I thought people are just driving their own cars and dropping business people off. And so I went to talk to my boss about it, Diana, who owned the limousine company. And of course, being in the small towns, it wasn't available. So then I tried calling Uber, but I got a hold of Lyft first. And they said, no, we're not in Gettysburg or anywhere up in that area. We're in the major cities.
What year was this?
This was, I saw that in 2013, late 2013, because you mentioned they started in 2009. But, of course, Uber started with Uber Black, which was chauffeurs in the black cars that you could summon through an app.
Is that what they did first? Because I know
Yes.
Uber Black still exists. There's
Yes.
Uber X, Uber Pet, Uber... you can send packages now through
Yes.
Uber. They've really, I heard that they're starting Uber helicopter soon.
Yeah, I heard that in Dubai.
Have you heard of that? Yeah, where you can summon a helicopter ride, just $2,000 charge will take you up to your helipad. I mean, it's essentially a brand new industry, you know, because it did replace taxi cabs or even chauffeuring. I think is still a thing for like celebrities and elite people, but it definitely changed, you know, public transportation. It changed the way people go to the grocery store and just go to, you know, running their daily errands. So you were living in this small town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I was living in Gettysburg.
Gettysburg. I'm familiar with Gettysburg. I've shot a show out there. Bulletproof Cowboys. Shout out to you guys. But so you were out there and you went to your boss. And what happened next?
Well, I talked to her. I said, maybe we can get in on this Uber Black, because when I'd get a job to DC, I would have to come back to Gettysburg. And I thought perhaps I could get multiple jobs when I'm down here. But to pick up in DC, you have to be licensed in DC. You can't be an out-of-state carrier. So that didn't work. But then I kind of my interest was piqued by this. And, you know, and I thought, man, maybe I could drive, you know, on my days off. And it sounds like kind of fun. And so I would commute from Gettysburg down here to DC. I did that for about 6 months, and also still worked for Diana for a while.
When did you make that so did you move to DC because of Uber?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
So to you, this is like a full career. You moved for it. You decide. I mean, because driving Uber in DC is probably one of the best cities in America to drive in. You know, as far as Uber goes, it's not one of the best
earnings,
cities.
yeah.
Earnings. It's not one of the best cities to drive in if you're, you know, just a regular driver, because if you've never driven in DC, they are the roads change at a certain time of day. You can only go this way in the mornings, and then the roads come this way at night, and you can't enter at 3. I grew up driving in New York because I'm from New Jersey, so I learned how to drive in New York City. People think New York City driving is hard, but in reality, it's a grid. Avenues up, avenues down. DC, you got the roundabouts, the tunnels, speed cameras everywhere. It's a hot mess. So you really, after the first 6 months kind of playing around with it, seeing what it was like, kind of getting your toes wet, and then when did you make that transition to become a full-time driver?
Early 2014. I don't know. It was like, I would say probably I stopped driving for Diana maybe in March or April, although as the years went by, occasionally I would still do a job for her. You know, and if she needed extra help.
And go on.
But that was rare that happened more and more.
And you left that job being a chauffeur.
Yes.
To drive for Uber full time.
Yeah, and the big advantage is that you don't have to set an alarm clock. When you're a chauffeur, you know, you do a lot of corporate work, and a lot of people going to airports. And we would be picking people up in York, Pennsylvania to go to Newark Airport, and they had to be there at 6. So we had to pick them up like maybe before 3. I had to wake up at 1:30, you know, then come back, take a nap. Now with Uber and Lyft, I sleep 8 hours every night. There's no schedule.
Yeah. You just listen to your body, go to sleep when you want. I mean, like in as I was writing my intro, I was like, this is the perfect job. You know, and it kind of really sounds like it is. You work when you want, how you want, make your own schedule. If you're a night person, I know that you like to work the night shift.
Yeah, I think I'm basically very lazy and don't like to get up early. So I just kind of wake up, like fiddle-faddle around the house, talk to friends online. And before you know it, it's like 3, 4 o'clock, you know. And then maybe you want to take a walk, get a bite to eat, and yeah.
And before you know it, it's time to go to sleep and do it all over again.
Yeah. So I think I just kind of naturally, because of my laziness, fell into night shifts. Some drivers that are disciplined wake up at 4 every morning and, you know, get that morning rush. That's not me.
you know, I mean, you talk about being lazy, but 34,000 rides, that's not lazy.
Well, it's not work. You're just driving around talking to people. It's like you and me right now, except I don't have to pay attention to the road.
You don't have to pay attention to me. But I mean, you know, I think that you can reframe it in a way of being like, I see so many people, and not on this podcast, just in real life, people who get up every single day, hating their job, hating their life, depressed. They wake up anxious. They wake up with anxiety. They wake up just, you know, oh my God, like Mondays going to work. It's such a drag. It's so annoying. It's so hard. And it's like, life is so short. You're spending probably about half of your life at work, right? 40 hours a week, your waking hours is spent in the workplace. And I think it was my grandmother who told me this. She said, you don't have to do what you love, but you have to love what you do, right? You don't have to be working your dream job, but you have to really, you can't go to work hating yourself. You know, should I call in sick today? Clocking out, like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like that really eats at your soul, you know? So the fact is that it sounds to me that you love driving for Uber, and you just enjoy it. That doesn't feel like work. That is the definition of how work should be. Yes. You know,
it's, you have your times, and your friends probably say the same thing, where it's kind of like exercise. There's days when you say, oh man, I really don't want to go downtown and get in that traffic. And, so there are times when you'd rather just do nothing, but.
And I'm sure at times that you do. Yeah. Where you're like, you know what, today I'm just going to take a lazy day, watch some movies, order some takeout, and, ignore the world.
Yep, exactly.
So how do you stay motivated? Because you don't have a boss, right? And I think that if you had people kind of left to their own devices, I wonder how many of them actually would, because the days things happen, you constantly get invited to places. The weekends are always fun. That's when, the rides are popping the most. Yeah. And then before you know it, it's the first of the month and you got to pay your rent and you're like, holy shit, I didn't work at all this, So how do you stay so motivated that you actually...
Part of it is necessity. Like as a younger man, financially, I was not very wise and I need to work. I'm almost 66. Most of my friends have homes and 401ks. I'm that person that always wanted the instant gratification. I wanted to go on vacation and I didn't have the money. So I put it on a credit card, so now I'm at a time in my life where I need to work. So that motivates me.
Taking responsibility for your life. When you don't have something to fall back on, and that's your, kind of your livelihood, you're going to go out there. Yeah. So how many hours a day do you dedicate to driving?
Now, let me start in the beginning. When in the beginning, it was exhilarating. I didn't know the city. Every day you're discovering new places that you didn't even know existed, and you're meeting all these new people. So in the beginning, Lyft used to let us drive 14 hours. And I would do that quite often before they shut you off. Now it's rare that I do more than 8 hours a day. There might be some days I do 10, some days I do 5 or 6.
It just depends on the day. But do you have like an average of a week, or do you go?
Yeah, my average week is probably close to 50 hours.
Okay, that's still. I mean, that's a full working week plus. Yeah. Do you have like a goal, like of how much money you want to make per day or per week?
Yeah, per day I try to make $200 a day.
200.
Yeah, and like yesterday I made $239. I think I worked. It was a good day. I worked like 6 hours. That was a really good day. That's above average.
People do not realize how much money you can make doing rideshare.
Yeah.
I mean, do you find that there's like a stigma a little bit against rideshare drivers where people, I don't know, I think that they assume that, it's considered a menial job, where it's, more for like typically immigrants or typically somebody who people like, it's like, oh, you're an Uber driver. And then they'll kind of look at you funny, like, oh, really? Like, why did you get stuck doing that? And you're like, no, I'm making bank. I'm doing really well financially. I'm not full of anxiety and depressed. Like, I'm living my best life out here. You're sleeping on this job. You don't realize how good Uber drivers have it. Is that true?
Yeah, maybe there is. But now that I'm older, that if there is, it doesn't bother me. I've had my ups and my downs. I was a broker of record of a real estate firm, and I actually got in legal trouble, and I had to leave that business. And luckily, my partner in real estate, her husband owned a pizza shop, a sub shop. And I started working there and delivering subs and pizzas. And I was making $1,000 a week, half of it tips. And I thought, this is not so bad. But there'd be times I'd come up to the door to somebody I sold a house to with their pizza.
Well, that's
humbling. Yeah. And then you just put life in a bigger perspective. We've all seen the movie Forrest Gump. I mean, there's nobility in every job on earth. You just have to let go of your ego. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that as I get older, is like my ego isn't as big a part of me as it was when I was younger. I guess we all still have ego, but you really have to
But I mean, aside from ego, like I think being an Uber driver is probably just a super cool. It's like, reading this intro, it's to me, it's the dream job.
Yeah, we do have a lot of fun. I try to have fun on every ride. Some passengers, you could tell they're tired. They don't want to talk. But others, are enthusiastic and want to talk and want to share stories. And I try to have fun every ride I do.
What's your... I have so many questions to ask you. I'm kind of like a kid in a candy store talking to you right now. Straight off the bat, what is your most memorable ride? Something that you're just going to stick with you. This is the ride.
Well, the ride I always tell everybody because it was so darn cool was I was in Columbia Heights and picked up I come up to this guy and he's on a bicycle and he has a dog, a short-haired dog, kind of like a husky shepherd mix. And he puts the dog in the back seat. And then he says, let's just take him to that address. And it's a shared ride.
Shared ride, meaning that you can pick up multiple people throughout the ride. So your passenger is a furry dog.
Yes.
He puts him in
and I said, what do I do when I get to the address? Well, I'm going to ride my bike. I'll meet you there. So to me, that was pretty cool. I immediately took a picture, a selfie with me and the dog, put it on Facebook, and I had the dog's name. Here's me and my passenger, so-and-so. We didn't get another passenger, but that was memorable. That was cool. The animal stories are always cool. I had another woman I picked up from a vet in Georgetown with a rabbit, and she just had her rabbit's molars ground down and said she spent $400. I was thinking, you could eat that rabbit. $400. I thought that's Georgetown for you, though.
Oh my God! So do you allow all animals in your car? You don't care?
Yeah, I'm easy. I let anything in my car. They could be like that alien from that Sigourney Weaver movie, and I would just hope for the best.
Really, I know of. I think it was a friend of mine who was an Uber, or maybe I read it online somewhere where somebody was doing a ride and someone came into their car holding a box, and then mid-ride they opened up the box and they had a python.
Oh, I would have put that on Facebook. Yeah, I said, let me take a selfie.
You wouldn't have freaked the fuck out? Being
Not a python, no.
No?
Especially if the guy had control of it and seemed to know what he was doing. Yeah.
Really? Because when you got to keep your hands on, your eyes on the road, your hands on the steering wheel, and you don't got eyes behind you. You don't know what's going on in the back seat, and you got this snake just slithering around in a small car. I'm not as brave as you.
I'm not brave. I'm just old, and when you get old, you realize, well, your time's limited anyway, what's to be afraid of,
I mean, that's a pretty fearless way of looking at life.
Yeah.
So you start driving for Uber and Lyft. You started with Lyft first?
Yeah, they were my peeps. Yeah.
They were
the old fist bump company that we made people sit up front because they had to be our friends.
Yes, I remember my first time taking a Lyft.
We had the pink mustache on the front of our
pink mustache. See, that's what I was just about to say. I remember the pink mustaches. Thank God that went away. I remember they used to have it in the grill of your car.
Yes.
They would put this pink fuzzy mustache.
I still have mine in a box.
Do you?
I'll have to hang it on my wall.
Do you? Now they have the Lyft amp.
Yeah.
That lights up different colors, and now Uber also released theirs, the Uber Beacon.
Yeah, they're becoming more and more like each other all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think both companies have, essentially they're competition, but I think that they're more or less the same. Are they not the same? What is the biggest difference between Uber and Lyft?
There's no big difference anymore. Just some technical things on the app.
Do you have a preference?
My heart is with Lyft because I knew everybody in the office. I've met one of the founders. I was, one of their top drivers in D.C. And they did come from that beginning, which was less corporate-like and more human-centered, But now it's whoever I can make the most money with that day. And that can vary. Sometimes their bonuses will vary week by week. And
what do you mean by bonuses?
Well, sometimes they'll offer if you do so many rides, you get this much money this week. Or with Uber, they'll go from Monday to Thursday and then Friday through Sunday, and they call it their Quest bonus. So, and they also have streak bonuses now to try to keep you from switching back and forth. Where if you do 3 rides in a row, you get $15 with us.
Because essentially, Lyft and Uber drivers, you guys are subcontractors.
Yeah, and most of us work for both, yeah.
Because being a subcontractor, on one hand, would mean that they don't have to give you benefits, they don't have to give you health insurance, and they don't have to give you any kind of, paid time off, dental, vision, all that. But on the flip side, being a subcontractor, you don't have to sign non-competes. You can work for whoever you want, whenever you want. What are if any of these companies came to you and said, we are now going to allow you to become full-time employees, and I know this is a huge debate, that they're talking about, on the news and all that. What are your thoughts on that? Would you want that to happen?
Personally, no. And I don't know all the ramifications, but I do know as a subcontractor, I can list so much on my Schedule C. I have my tax preparer do it for me. I don't even know everything she does. I give her all my receipts, and my taxes, even though I work full time, have never even hit $2,000 a year as a subcontractor. So the fact that we pay the whole 15%, which people represent as a detriment, yeah, but we have this Schedule C where we, list our income. Usually my taxable income is like between 10 and 15,000, which also was good for health insurance because Obamacare, if you remember, based your premium on your income.
I don't know. I'm 25, so I don't know. I don't know much about insurance.
Well, now I'm on Medicare.
Once I turn 26, I'm gonna have to figure that out.
But Obamacare, like maybe my health insurance was $890, but maybe my monthly premium was $89 because my income was showing at this amount. So people that were showing higher income weren't as thrilled with Obamacare as other people were. They were showing lower income. So that wasn't a disadvantage to healthcare you talked about. The paid time off or being sick leave, maybe that would help. But and then the control they would have over you.
So if you had it your way, you would keep it to how it has been so far and keep it to being a subcontractor, work when you want, as opposed to getting all the benefits.
Yeah, without seeing the advantages or disadvantages like listed in front of me, I would rather stay as I am. And for the freedom, like you mentioned, of being able to work whenever you want to and not being having to be told when you have to work.
If they did switch it up and say, okay, from now on, your employees, pick one over the other. You got to choose Uber. You got to choose Lyft. Would you stay in the industry? Would you go with it, or would you be like, you know what, this is no longer special. This is no longer the industry I signed up for, and to kind of find something else?
I'd probably stay in it. I also just recently got my license as a DC tour guide, so that's what I'd eventually like to do. Just for the I sit in my car too much. It's a fun job, but when you're an Uber Lyft driver, that's not healthy to be always sitting in your car all the time. And
to be like physically.
Yeah, there's studies that have shown extended sitting is as detrimental to your health as smoking.
Really?
Yeah, even if you exercise, like if you regularly exercise, that it has some effect on your body. Yeah.
So you got to have different pillows and different stuff to kind of
and
maneuver
take
yourself.
Breaks. Take maybe every 3-4 rides, walk out of the car, maybe squat or stretch something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other key is this job, if you eat too much, you're dead. I don't know if you ever driven on a long trip, but when you if I have a big dinner, I'm just yawning the whole night. So you got to eat light, even though I don't look like I eat light.
So if they did do that and you had to choose one over the other, do you have one that you would stick with? You would if you you had to choose to work for one.
Oh boy, that's tough.
You don't have to answer it.
I just because I have this emotional attachment to Lyft, I'd probably stick with Lyft. And I think they seem a little busier now because from what my passengers have told me, they're cheaper, but they're not surging as much either. Like with Uber, I've been getting more surge, but then because of that surge, it's not always as busy. So
it's that kind of yin and yang, or that what is it? Like Uber is more expensive. Lyft is cheaper. So
here in DC anyway, it seems lately. Yeah. That's the feedback I've been getting from my passengers.
And the surge is basically what?
Uber, especially Uber, will have areas that are shaded on your map that show you in this area we're paying $7 extra a ride. So if you get in that area, that $7 is then added to your next ride.
All together, if you do the math, you say you want to hit about $200 a day. That's close to $1,500 a week.
If
roughly.
You work 7 days, yeah.
Do you work all 7 days a week?
Usually 5 or 6 these days.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's roughly $50K a year.
Yeah, gross revenue, yeah.
Really? I mean,
you got your car expense, you got your gas,
Yeah, what about that argument? Because I do hear this a lot, when people, when you really break down the expenses of the car and gas and oil changes and tires and brakes and all this types of stuff, does it put a lot of wear and tear on your car?
Oh yeah, I drive like 70,000 miles a year, like in a car.
How many cars have you been through this?
My Chevy Cruze was my first one, which I owned, and then that broke down, and it got to the point where I had a small accident. That's right, and I leased one from Uber for 3 years, and that was a Toyota Camry, and that was $142 a week. But I had to do maintenance. Luckily, nothing went wrong with it.
So you can lease a car from Uber?
At about 4 years ago, you could exchange leasing, I think it was called. And yeah, I went to a Criswell Honda in Gaithersburg and leased a car. It was a 3-year lease. There was a penalty if you terminated early. They did oil changes, but you were responsible for other maintenance.
And you had unlimited miles.
Yeah, unlimited miles.
Which is, I guess, the biggest advantage because I think that when you lease a car today, you have 30,000 miles a year, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, now I lease through a company out of Rockville called Whip, and they're $200 a week plus insurance, but I pay my own insurance with them. But they handle all maintenance. So that's a fixed expense that I don't ever have to worry about a fuel pump or transmission or tires or brakes. They handle all maintenance.
Now, anybody can get this, or is it just specifically for ride shares?
I think anybody can lease through them, but they're mainly for ride shares, but I'm not sure.
But you have unlimited miles.
Unlimited miles. Their only limitation is they don't like you going 150 miles away from Rockville. But, I've had rides further than that. I just sent them a text. I had a ride to Norfolk about 6 weeks ago, and just send them a text. Hey, I got this ride down here.
Why do they care where you go?
I don't think they do, but they have that rule that they don't want the case they got to repossess it to be more than 150 miles away from Rockville.
Gotcha. So, what is the furthest ride you ever did on Uber?
Believe it or not, it's only Norfolk, which is a 3-hour ride. That was just 6 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. I once had a guy that wanted me to take him to New York. I picked him up on a ride one day, and he asked me 2 days later if I'd take him to New York, and I did that through Lyft. But it wasn't. So that was actually my brother's. But I've just picking somebody up at the door, not knowing where they're going, was that Norfolk ride.
When you get a ride request, you don't know where you're going.
No, they if it's a long ride, the two apps do make an estimate of how long it is and warn you.
Give you that warning because a lot of people will drive Uber, before work, and they want to stay in the area, do some local rides, and then so it gives you that warning, hey, you're going far away.
Yes, and if you accept 90% of your rides, both apps will tell you the ride's 7 minutes, the ride's 20 minutes. Lyft will even tell you what direction.
Really?
Yeah.
So you have no idea who you're picking up, what it's going to be, where you're going to go, what the situation's going to be like.
It's like a box of chocolates, right?
Forrest Gump. Is that right?
Yeah, it could be a retired commander of the 7th Fleet and the Pacific Fleet, which I had once, or it could be a working girl of the night, You don't know.
Working girl of the night, prostitutes.
Yeah.
Does that happen often?
I've probably had 10 or 12.
10 or 12.
Yeah, that's not many, is it? In all those rides.
Well, as far as you never know how many of them were
don't
prostitutes
know for sure.
that you didn't that didn't tell you.
Yeah, because I remember 2 of the young women, they were actually on the phone making appointments. I heard her say that's $300 for an hour, and she was going to the Hilton on Connecticut.
You're in the wrong industry. I'm in the wrong industry.
Yeah.
$300 an hour.
Yeah, there's high end and low end and everything. But that admiral was interesting. We were talking about he was retired Navy, and he didn't tell me he was an admiral. But with Google, I thought he was really smart. He knew all about that new destroyer the Navy had made, and his Lyft name was RF. So I Googled on a hunch Admiral RF, and there was his face, Admiral RF Rat Willard, former commander of the whole Pacific Fleet. And I had him in my car.
Do you pick up a lot of prominent people? A lot of people
Probably,
that are famous?
Yeah, but I don't. They're not Hollywood famous. So you might have a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist that you don't know, but I'm sure they're famous in their industry. or somebody that's like, I think I had the second in command at the Department of Commerce. I don't know. I don't even remember the person's name. I've had Mayor Fenty twice, who was the mayor before Vincent Gray. I had him. He was a mayor, maybe 12, 15 years ago, younger guy.
Yeah, I can imagine, though, that probably depending on what city you drive, meaning you drive in D.C., so I'm sure that the famous people you're picking up are like diplomats and politicians, people who work in Capitol Hill, versus if I were to be interviewing a Lyft or Uber driver from L.A., I'm sure they'll be like, well, I had Paris Hilton in my car, So.
I had a congressman one day, and the only reason I knew he was a congressman is I picked him up at the airport, and he had an address in, but then he changed it to one of the congressional office buildings. So I had his first name, and I Googled Congressman Earl. He was from Oregon, and I forget his last name, but I found him too. So, yeah, you might have people that you don't even know,
That's really funny. I wish, one day, AOC gets in your car,
That would be, one of my friends on Facebook had the other woman in the squad. The one that not
Rashida Tlaib.
Yes, Rashida Tlaib, and took a picture with her. I was so jealous.
Really, I didn't know, because I don't know. My understanding always, and I know this is if I ever get to have a congressperson on, which I would love to interview a politician. I always imagine that they got black cars, SUVs sent to their homes and stuff, and seeing them taking Ubers and just acting like regular folk is really. I don't know. I never really thought of it, but I remember reading a report. I was reading a story. I think it was by who was the actress, Gabrielle Union. I think she was talking about once that an Uber driver drove her home on New Year's Eve, and then he asked to use her bathroom, and he ended up clogging her toilet, and she tweeted about it. And I was like, do these celebrities really take Ubers? But I guess, when they're off days, they're human, they're taking Ubers and Lyfts.
It's so convenient,
It really is.
You just snap your finger and the car's there, yeah.
It's changed. It's really, really revolutionized and created an entire new industry. I mean, this morning on the way over to the studio, normally I give Ellen a ride to the studio, and I was like, yo, I'm running late. I slept in. Please take an Uber. I'll cover your cost. And he was like, great, $14. I'll be at the studio. And I was like, perfect. He's here. Thank you for showing up, Alan.
Yeah, I used to order Ubers for my mother before she passed up in Hanover, Pennsylvania from here. And so she could go to her hair appointment. And,
yes.
Yeah, and so you can be on the other side of the world and order an Uber for somebody. And that's it's revolutionary.
But that doesn't that also kind of sometimes lead to problems, though? Meaning you're not sure who you're picking up, what car they're getting in. Do people get into your car who aren't your passenger? And
it happened more in the beginning, and it was more by accident, or people thought they could game the system. But it's hard to game now. Most drivers don't want to waste their time, and they're careful who they pick up.
So do you have a kind of check that you do to make sure you have the right passenger?
If they want to, some drivers ask them their names. Sometimes that creates confrontation. So I just say, "Are you red?" And then if the person goes yes, and you're going to 1711 K Northwest, and they go yes, then I'm good. If they go, "Oh no, I'm going to Savannah, 1345 Savannah Road Southeast," then I'll call the passenger, and if Red's phone rings, okay, I was just verifying, but
Gotcha.
And usually once you drive away, the real passenger, if that ever happens, will call you right away and just say, "Hey, you just drove off with somebody else."
Have you ever picked up the wrong passenger?
In the beginning, I don't think in the last 4 years I have. No.
So there's an art to learning this industry, to learning how to do it and how to get it right.
Yeah.
But even just the way that I think about it, right? And this was kind of in my opening intro. Drivers have background checks, right? You go through background checks, you get all your information done, whatever. These passengers, you have no idea who they are. You picked up 34,000 strangers.
Yeah, I'm sure I've had people with guns in my car. I can't prove it, but I can't believe I would not have.
Have you picked up people that were, that you've ever felt in danger, where you were like, okay, this seems sketchy. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
The worst was a guy. He was down in DuPont at the, I think the Rose Bar, the Dirty Bar next to it, And first off, he had his location over by across the street at the Shake Shack. And I finally figured out where he was. He's really drunk. And then he was going all the way to Laurel, and I saw it was like a 40-minute ride. So I'm thinking, all right, $30 late at night, maybe $35. But he wants to stop for pizza. So on the way, at the bottom of Adams Morgan, he stops in one of those pizza shops. And somehow he gets in an argument with the proprietor there, and they are at each other's throats, and they're like somebody's holding back the proprietor, and he was like a fit, buff guy. You know, I would not want to fight him, but my passenger, who was kind of flabbier, you know, was yelling at him. And when he got in the car, he said, I'm going to have him killed. And if you let anybody know, he said, I'll have, you know, you taken care of and your family will be in danger. I go, man, I'm your Lyft driver. And I'm thinking, I want this $30. I'm just not going to talk the rest of the way. You know?
Man, the things you'll do for $30.
Yeah, but I did keep, he left his pizza box in the car with the crust. And I thought, well, if he does have that guy killed, I'll have his pizza crust and I give the police his DNA. And I live by myself, so, you know,
so
he was all talk.
Did you keep the pizza crust?
Yeah, for about a week. Yeah. That you know, I didn't really feel threatened. I just felt it was, and I had to ride in silence for half an hour, you know. And I had 2 guys in Reston once, which is in Virginia, and picked up 2 guys once, and one was so drunk I was right in front of him and he couldn't see where I was. But his friend, who might have been his brother from the way they were talking, was sober. So the brother or the friend was telling him what an ass he's being. I don't know if I can say that on a podcast.
You can say whatever the fuck you'd like. This is an open dialogue.
Was telling him what an ass he's being, and like knock it off. And the drunk one is telling him, you always talk to me like this way, and I'm sick of it. And next thing you know, well, while this was occurring, they wanted to stop at Wendy's on the way, so they get some Wendy's nuggets, some sodas, and some fries. And they start like yelling more after that. And then they start throwing fists at each other. And they roll down their windows. And one guy threw out the other guy's Sprite, you know, out the car. And then their guy throws the other guy's drinks out. And they throw their fries out. And they're pounding each other. Well, I had 2 nephews that I drove to Florida once. And they were close in age. So they would fight a lot. So I'm thinking, it's about a mile and a half. I'm going to get them back, make sure there's nothing damaged in the car, and they got out and kept fighting.
Wait, so the nephews you drove to Florida, that was just personal, that was your friend?
Yeah, that was friends that thinking, you know, I've been through this before. You know, if you have kids, they're always acting up in the back.
So you have these adults in the back of your car.
Big guys, too, punching each other.
Throwing food. First of all, it sounds like you have the patience of a saint.
Yeah, I get that from my relatives. They were very patient. My grandparents and my aunts and uncles were very patient people.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be. I mean, first of all, the stops. People ask you often, stop, and you'll just do it. I'll take you to Wendy's. I'll take you here. I'll take you there.
I think to stay long term in this job, you have to have the attitude that you're going to go out every day and see who you can help make their day a little better. You know, and if I can help somebody by waiting for them, like I guess some drivers would say they don't want to be taken advantage of. You know, and yeah, if they wanted to wait an hour, that would be. You know.
So what's your cutoff limit? How long are you willing to wait for somebody after they're stopping? You know, I don't know.
You know, I've never had anybody that was more than 20 minutes.
You waited 20 minutes for somebody as they went into.
Well, they might even have asked me, like, and I said, don't worry about it. You know, yeah, that gives you time to, like, maybe you were like reading something online, you know, to catch up.
So you just kind of scroll through social media, wait for them to come back out while they're doing their grocery shopping.
Yeah, maybe argue about politics and religion online or something, which I do. You know, we believe it or not, you're not supposed to, but I talk a lot in my car even about politics and religion, and we have some really deep conversations, and I get some really interesting people.
First of all, you're going like a mile a minute. I have so many topics that I want to that we keep building on. Drunk people. Let's go back to that. You pick up a lot of drunk people. Do they ever throw up in your car?
I've only had, I think, 3. About one every 11,000 people. Yeah,
that's pretty good odds. I heard that throwing up in an Uber is one of the most expensive things you can do, and that it charges you
150. I did have a guy urinate over the back of my car. He was trying to light up a crack pipe, and he was a real friendly guy. And I said, "You can't light up a crack pipe in my car." And he goes, "Man, you ever try crack?" He goes, "It's really good. You should try it." I go, "I don't want to try it, and you can't light that up in my car." So he put it out, but then he had to stop and pee. So he gets out, and I look back, and I notice the whole side of the seat where he's sitting is wet. and then he gets back in on the other side. So that ended my night. I had to have it detailed, and so, yeah, but so you add that to the 3 people who threw up, which weren't as bad, like 4 instances like that.
And you're calm throughout this? This guy is literally smoking crack.
Well, he put it out. Put it out. Yeah.
Attempting to smoke crack in the back of your car, peeing on your seats.
Well, the pee's already there. What are you going to do,
So you didn't kick him out?
I took him where he's going to go, yeah. He's already all had my seat messed up. I mean, but I didn't, that was it for the night,
And then what did you, does Lyft take care of you for that?
Yeah, they sent me $150 pretty quickly. Yeah, and I gave him 1 star.
Does that ever happen though, that you'll have like passengers trying to like hook up in the back of your car and they'll start having sex or anything else like that?
Maybe because I'm like a Mr. Rogers, it's never happened to me, but my friends have told me stories. Like my friend Chrissy had somebody masturbating in the back of her car, and then another friend posted on Facebook, showed a woman with her leg up on the other seat actually masturbating and groaning in his car. Had another friend who was going down the 3rd Street tunnel, and a woman was giving a guy a blowjob, but none of those things have ever happened to me.
What would you do in that situation?
I'd just keep driving and probably give him 1 star. If there was no mess in the back, I might give him 3 stars.
You wouldn't intervene? You wouldn't be like, hey, knock that off. This is my car.
Who wants to be like interrupted when you're doing that,
I mean,
maybe if it's, what you got to worry about, though, especially if you're a man and there's a woman, is that things aren't misconstrued. Yeah, maybe you'd ask a woman to stop because you wouldn't want things to get twisted. I'll tell you a story. I picked up an Uber driver as a passenger who told me he almost went to jail because a woman had passed out in the back of his car, and while she was tossing and turning, her top kind of came down. So when he got there to her home, he opened the back door and woke her up, and she thought she was being accosted. She called the police. They were ready to arrest him, but he actually had camera inside his car that showed everything that happened.
Really?
So as a man, you got to be careful.
Do you have a camera in your car?
I don't. I live on the edge. I really should have.
Really? I mean, because this is actually a really big thing, and I kind of want to discuss that with you, because here's the thing. Every person, every driver kind of has their own system, their own thing that they do. It's basically each man for himself out there. And when you end up in a situation like this where you can, have you ever been accused of anything in your car?
No, just that twice. Once with Lyft and once with Uber, that I appeared to be intoxicated.
I have heard of that.
Yeah, and that's in 34,000 rides. With Lyft, they had me back online in a couple hours. Uber was like about 24 hours later.
Really? Because you see, the thing is that anybody could lie about anything they want to, and this is in no way, shape, or form. Like, if you are a victim of sexual harassment, if you are, and this did happen to you, 100% report it, 100%, reach out to the authorities. I know that RAINN, RAINN, a really amazing sexual assault organization, will help people who have, that did happen to them. But unfortunately, such as the instance of your friend who had camera, everything on camera that proved that he was innocent. Imagine that someone, the situation had happened to you, and you can go to jail for that. It can get very dicey.
He was an immigrant. I think he was like a Middle Eastern immigrant. So there's that involved too. The preconceived biases that might occur. So yeah, maybe it's because I'm just an older white guy. I don't worry about it as much. I don't know.
I mean, older white guys are the people who get accused the most.
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Once I just show you how vulnerable people can be. I had this pretty little blonde girl who reminded me so much of my daughter, who's like 5 feet tall and just adorable. And she had her pickup location on the 695 expressway. It's like an interstate that kind of runs through the city. Yeah. And I called her. She was actually at the Eastern Market Metro, and she was totally wasted. And she sat in the front, and immediately she passed out. So she had, like you say, people getting in strangers' cars. Now, for me, it kind of touched my heart because I felt like, I used to drive my daughter, and she'd be sleeping, But then when I got her home, I had to wake her up. Her being in the front was an advantage because she was sitting up, not laying down, and I could open her door, have my door open, have the lights on, and just kind of nudge her shoulder and say, come on, I forget her name. You're here. And then I made sure she tried to get in the home. She couldn't do it. Finally, a light came on in the home and somebody let her in. But I kind of felt good. Like sometimes you're really out there. People that could be taken advantage of. You're like, you're
yeah, but you never know like what other people's intentions are or what they're going through, what their day is. And you seem like such a sweet, nice person that really has everyone's like best interest at heart.
Well, that makes you happier. Like,
yeah, for sure. But I would probably, just knowing you, I mean, recommend the camera. I know that a lot of drivers have cameras in their cars.
I meant to get one. I'm also not only lazy, but I'm a procrastinator. But you also need it for like accidents. Like if you go through a green light, and somebody else goes through a red light, it's your word against theirs.
It sounds a little bit like nothing really phases you.
No.
I mean, you have the crazies. Do you pick up people that are like visibly crazy, mentally ill?
Maybe. I had a guy once, he was a little hard to find. He was up there in Naylor Road, and the entrance to his building was like before you had to like kind of come up at the bottom of the hill and go in the driveway. Well, anyway, I finally figured that out, and he's like swearing at me, and then I get down there, and I'm looking for the numbers, and I must have driven by him. He calls me, motherfucker, you just drove right by me. I go, I'm sorry about that. I said, I must not have seen you. I picked him up. And then we're going on our way. He goes, don't go that way. There's too many cops. I go, okay, I'll go whatever way you want me to go. And then we're coming up, I think it's Branch Avenue, and there's a church that was converted to a mosque. I think it was a Friday. So the right lane on Branch Avenue, you're allowed to park there, which means the people in the left lane, if turning left, are holding everybody up. And he was swearing about the Nation of Islam and how they blah, 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 and how they shouldn't be able to park there. I mean, he was just going off on all these things. And I go, yeah, that is kind of like not good that they can park there. It did cause congestion, But, he ate some of my Starburst, and at the end he goes, oh, can I have some more? And he goes, well, thanks. Thanks for listening to me. I go, no problem,
I think that's like I think you're really onto something here, is that where people come in a bad mood and they're angry and they're just pissed off, they're like wounded puppies. They just really want somebody to listen to them, to kind of acknowledge them as a human.
That's so point on, like wounded puppies. I had a girl one night. This was maybe 4 months ago. I kind of felt bad that I didn't do more, but I picked her up. Apparently her boyfriend or his roommates called the police that she was being too loud, and it was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and she wouldn't leave. And they had a really nice day, and she was really hurt. She was swearing at the police when I got there, that she was calling them racist, asking for their badge numbers. She gets in the car, she starts yelling at me, called me the N-word, and said, N-word, you're just a cab driver. I'm a manager of a massage envy, and I don't deserve to be treated like this. And she started crying more, and she didn't have custody of her kids. Her old boyfriend had been killed last year. And at the end, I let her out. I said, well, I hope things get better. I wish I would have just told her I believed in her, and things will get better for her, because even though in the beginning, but as you said, they're like wounded puppies. She was really hurt.
Yeah, and it's kind of like they're out there taking out their anger on the person that's in front of them, not the anger on you. Had it been, they would have been angry no matter who the Uber driver was.
Yeah, they were angry at the police. They were probably calling them racist. And
but you don't feel the need to protect yourself in some way?
Well, nobody's ever tried to stab me or shoot me. Did you hear about that Uber driver? He picked up a guy on a pool. He was from Frederick, and he got killed down there by the MGM on. There was a guy shot the passenger and him.
Really? I mean, look, this does happen. I know that there was a year or two ago around Christmas time in this area where one driver was driving and he got carjacked and jumped, and 3 people jumped him, took his car, took his wallet, his keys, and left him stranded. I mean, and there was that story, I think it was in Colorado, where there was a fight that broke out in the middle and the driver shot the passenger or vice versa. And, I know that Uber had a lot of, bad PR or whatever, but look, in any industry that you're in, people are people, humans are humans. You're always going to have something, but I think that the odds of something bad happening, right? Meaning you've done 34,000 rides. People take, it's almost like plane crashes, right? How many planes crash? The ones that do, you hear about in the news, but how many millions of flights do we not hear about that go smoothly?
Exactly.
I think it's similar to that, and if you look at the odds, I mean, do you remember that story of the girl in North Carolina? She was drunk at a bar, gets out of the car, out of the bar, stumbling, and gets into a car. She's like, "Are you my Uber?" And the guy just says yes. And he wasn't even an Uber driver. He was literally just there, gets in the car, and then he murdered her and I think raped her or something. So, you know, we talk candidly about Uber getting into cars, you know, nonstop, all that, but you never think that your plane is the one that's going to go down, and you never think that this ride is going to be the one.
Yeah,
but
statistically, you're in so much danger just driving, much more danger, you know, just being in a car wreck rather than something violently happening to you, you know.
Have you ever been in a car accident with a passenger in the car?
Yeah, actually, two. One was my fault, and another one, you know, I have road joy. So many people have road rage. The one, this truck hauling snow, was in the left lane of Missouri Avenue, and I was in the right lane, and she didn't see me, and she puts her turn signal on, and I just don't beep at people, but I got to push now I'm better. So if a truck starts coming in my lane, so she kind of hit me on the side. I probably should have beeped and she wouldn't have hit me, but I just tried to move over. But now I'm better at beeping. And the other one was my fault. I picked a passenger up on Connecticut Avenue, and we had to go south, so I had to do a U-turn. And I looked back, nobody is coming, so I do my U-turn. Somebody must come out of side street, and you know our fronts kissed pretty hard. And I think that's when I leased when I went to lease my Uber car, because that was the end of my Chevy for a while.
And then what did the passengers say when you get into an accident?
She wasn't hurt. I said, I messed that up. Would you like another, you know, order you another ride on me, you know? And she just, no, I'll order one myself, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
And she wasn't like mad or?
No, she wasn't mad. And I only had 8,000 rides at that time with Lyft, and they didn't.
Only 8,000.
Yeah, they didn't let me go, which was nice, because I think if that happened every 5,000 rides, they'd probably let you go. And the third incident was one over like in Oxon Hill, and I was in a line of traffic. I decided, you know what, I'm just going up the right lane and go that way. But somebody else was speeding up the right lane, and he, like, to avoid me, kind of went into like a little ditch and hit a little tree, busted up his front headlight. I just paid him cash. I said, do you want me to put this through insurance, or you just want to get it fixed and tell me how much it is? So, yeah, so that one I didn't. My car wasn't damaged, you know.
I really, really love that you said that you have road joy. Too many people have road rage.
Yeah, they want to beep at everything. I have a friend that when she drives with me, she's constantly trying to beep my horn, and I have to grab her arm.
I think
Anit, if you're listening.
I think that there are so many people who, you know, are in such a rush at all times. They're rushing home. It's like you're rushing home to sit in front of your TV. Why? Why are you in such? People are always in such a mood. They're you know, on the go, zooming around town, honking at everyone, zooming through yellow lights. Like, chill, enjoy, stop and smell the roses. Yeah. You know, kind of look at the.
I don't want to give the impression that I drive like Miss Daisy, or drive. I scoot pretty well in the city. You know, I get through my lights. I try to be as efficient as I can, get as many rides per hour as I can. But when I get on the highway now, I find myself, I have trouble, like on interstates, just keeping up with everybody because I'm relaxing, you know.
Yeah.
Where as a chauffeur, oh my gosh, and I was going to JFK or Newark, I had to be careful I wasn't doing 90, you know, because those Lincoln Town cars got 8 cylinders, you know, and you want to get there and back as soon as you can. But
then especially you're taking people to airports, and they're like, rush, rush, rush.
Yeah, there used to be this one guy, this one company always wanted me because I got in there so quickly and back.
Do you have that? Passengers come into your car and they're like, "Speed, go, zoom."
I say, faster. You got the right person.
Really? So you'll like.
I say, let me know if I scare you.
So you'll comply. You'll speed.
Well, I'm pretty peppy in the city. I mean, in the city, if you're doing like 42, 45, you're flying sometimes, you know.
Now in D.C., though, they got those speeding cameras everywhere.
Except downtown. There you got the one at K, you know, under the Washington Circle. But
I love how you know every single speeding camera on every street.
There's a new one that bit me twice, and I hadn't been bitten in a long time, and that's north of the Russian embassy. I like to take my breaks in that neighborhood below there. It's called Glover Park. And I'm just coming out of my break. I'm la-di-da, maybe finishing my ice cream cone or soda. and I'm going up that hill, and, you know, it's wide open there. It's like, it might even be, with parking 6 lanes, at least 4 lanes. and it's 25 there. And
Yeah, those DC like tunnels and stuff. It's 25 miles an hour. What should be in like a 50 at least.
yeah, and you do 38 and flash, and that happened to me twice this week.
DC makes millions every year on, and especially these politicians. They just drive right through because they can just get it dismissed. And then the rich people are like, fuck it, I'll pay it. I don't care.
Yeah. So you learn where those dangerous ones are. Like the other one, I used to live up near Clarksburg, and Mass Ave going down the hill after AU, there's one at the bottom of the hill. And I'd be at the end of the day, maybe at the app off, So you learn where those are. And
so it sounds to me, though, you do have a bit of a routine that you keep to and stick with, even though, you work your own hours, you set your own thing, but like you're like, I take my breaks here, I do it there. You do kind of get into a groove. That
where you like to start your day, where you get your gas. Like I live in Southeast DC now, and I usually go to New York Avenue right by the Bladensburg Road. There's a Checkers, and before that there's a BP. They're like 211 right now. That's usually where I start my day, right there.
The gas prices. There are often a lot of times that people, are breaking the law, and a lot of it is to do with, poverty. For instance, wanting to fit, 5 people in a 4-passenger car, or babies without car seats. Do you kind of draw the line over there?
The other drivers are going to hate me, but I figure they're probably safer with me than other drivers because I'm so experienced. And I take people with kids, even on shared rides. It's so funny. I think I had 3 different passengers, and they all had 2 kids, and they all put down they were one person.
And then
the third passenger, there's just no way.
But then, so like, even though these people are technically breaking the rules, breaking the law, like I don't know, breaking the law.
Well, let me give you a good example. I picked up a woman at the Metro, Southern Avenue Metro, which is by a hospital, UMC Hospital on Southern Avenue, and she had like one that she had to carry, like maybe one, who had to go to the ER. She had 2 other children with her, maybe 2 and 4, 2 and 3. How is she going to get in the Metro with 3 car seats? How is she going to get to the hospital? They used to get in cabs with no car seat. They get on buses with no car seat, obviously. So, yeah, it's really, people with multiple children that carry multiple car seats, I don't know how you do it,
So you just kind of really look past what they're doing, and you kind of see them for who they are, for the people, and being like, you need, I need to
get and maybe you should. Maybe if we were all by the book, everybody would have a car seat. But I don't know how some of these people would do it. There's others that just have one child that they probably could have a car seat, but
you'll take them even though that they're
because I take the others. It's
that's
I hope I don't get in trouble with Uber or Lyft that way, but cabs take them.
No, I get it. I know that it's a tough situation to be in, especially when the passenger will be yelling at you and all upset and be like, but I don't have a car seat, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm here and I'm alone and I'm cold without my baby. Just take us home, please. It's only 10 blocks. I can understand where the empathy really kicks in, and you're like, all right.
Or maybe you're just maybe you don't like confrontation, which maybe you should stand up more and do what's right. So it could be either way.
Yeah, I mean, sitting here talking to you, I'm really kind of getting that you're a very non-confrontational person.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to confront a passenger about anything, or where you draw do you have a line that you draw where you're like, all right, I will not tolerate this in my car. This is too much. This is drawing the line. What is too much for you?
That's a good question. Usually I'll just take them to their destination and report them. They're already in the car. Yeah, I've never really had that situation, where somebody was that they threatened violence or anything. That never happened to me.
And if somebody did threaten violence against you,
that one passenger did, but then
you kept his pizza.
Yeah, I kept his pizza, but he wasn't. He was only threatening violence if I ratted on him for murdering this guy tomorrow. So it wasn't so I've never had anybody threaten violence on me.
So you've never had to call the police on a passenger or anything else like that?
No.
You say you're non-confrontational, but you said earlier that you will discuss politics and religion in your car.
Yeah.
Does it get heated?
Only, I'd say once, and I learned from that. We were talking about gun control, and this this one woman was adamant that people should have whatever guns they want. And we were, it was a shared ride, and the other passenger was on my side. So she was getting ganged up on, and I was being just very nice, saying, "I see your point, but don't you think it is like a problem?" And I should have just dropped it, but so one time out of 34th, and I could tell she's upset. She goes, "I just wanted to get an Uber. I didn't need all this," And I'm thinking, yeah, it's right. You shouldn't have had to put up with all that. So, but a lot of people like to talk about it,
Yeah, I mean, you're a talkative guy. I mean, I'm having a great time talking to you. So do you generally talk to most of your passengers?
I like to, yeah. But sometimes you can tell their responses are short. They're looking at their phone. They're like heads. Yeah, sometimes you can tell they don't want to talk.
And then you kind of just
just be quiet. Yeah, and with COVID right now, the less talking, the less germs that are like aerosolized. What's the word? They become aerosol. And, you got to breathe. So it's probably better that we don't talk.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who he takes Ubers to work in the mornings. And he says, if my driver tries talking to me in the morning, he gets 1 star. I was like, that's
I wonder if I've ever had him.
It's a little harsh.
I usually give an exuberant greeting and just say, "Hey, Red, how you doing today?" And something like that. And then I'll maybe say one more thing. But if they don't respond, then I'll just be
kind of you got to read the room.
Yeah.
Seeing who's talkative, who's not. Yeah. I think it's like the people who are going to work. This is their mode of transport to work every day. They're just kind of like,
yeah. My best example of that, picked up somebody at the German embassy, I think, and it was an attorney for United Airlines, and she didn't realize she ordered a shared ride, and we were chit-chatting, and she was going out, I think she was going out Virginia somewhere, and dropped the other 2 passengers off, and I kept chit-chatting, and she goes, "Why do you think after a night of small talk, I'd want to go through more small talk?" And I said, you make a good point. I'm sorry. And then I could tell she felt a little guilty because she tried to small talk some more. But, some people would blow their tops, but she was right. I say, you're right. You shouldn't have to go through that.
But you don't find that rude that she just
she could have been more diplomatic, but
you would think, working for the embassy.
But she was upset because she wanted to put her daughter to bed, and she didn't realize she had ordered a shared ride. So when she got there, I showed her the app. I said, "Now make sure, next time, if you don't want a shared ride, you do this." So it was good by the end, and I think she felt guilty for being rude, but I think I deserved that.
I don't know if you deserved it, but I think this goes back into what we were talking about earlier of, people that went through a hard day or in a bad mood, or people who hate their lives or hate their jobs, they take it out on people. That road rage, it's that common theme of if you're an unhappy person, you're going to take it out on your driver. You're going to take it out on service people. I mean, I know that there's a term for it now in America called being a Karen, where people, these videos go viral of people yelling at workers at a McDonald's. And it's like, bro, I'm just here to, flip burgers and make $6 an hour, and it's like, it's the same thing. People will take it out on rideshare drivers, without really considering that they're in your car, they're in your space, they're, I know you're at work, you're not doing them a favor, but you're providing them a service, and it doesn't give them a right to.
Yeah, and sometimes we get $4, $5, and it's not like we're making a ton of money per ride either,
Yeah, you got to put in the hours to really make that money, and then. Do you have people, that leave behind? You said the guy left his pizza. People leave trash. People leave stuff in your car.
A little bit of trash, but the worst is the phones and keys because they really need them, and you get phones more than anything.
Yeah, you're after this, you have a phone you got to drop off.
Yeah, I got to drop off. Guy left last night. He passed out in the car. I should have known better. I should have asked him, "Do you have your phone?" Especially people that pass out because they're just coming to. That was my,
a little drunk, little
and they pay us $15. I don't always take it if it's not really out of my way. I don't take it. But it could go both ways. Some drivers can be jerks too. I talked to a guy yesterday. We were talking about that phone, and he said he left his phone in a car. The car started to drive away from Union Station. He said, "Oh wait, I forgot my phone," and the guy stopped, took his phone out, and the guy charged him $15 for a return fee.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get that money, right? I guess, but it does go both ways. That
drivers can be jerks too.
Drivers can be.
I hear stories all the time how drivers cuss people out for my passengers.
It seems though that you have, meaning because you work by yourself a lot, so you have you don't really get coworkers, But it seems that you've made a lot of friends with other drivers who share similar experiences, and you're able to kind of relate to them. Do you have like a place where you all hang out and like where you meet everyone?
Our little group broke up. We had like a great group. There were about 6 of us, and one of them moved to Germany. Another one moved to Chicago. We still there's an app. It's a walkie-talkie app called Zello. That's where we still stay in touch. But yeah, so I do have a group of friends that help keep me sane.
Where do you meet these other drivers?
Well, we used to meet a lot at Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
But I'm saying, how do you get to know them? How do you?
I met one of them at a Lyft social, and then
Is that a thing?
They used to when we were new and cool, and then met the others from her, and some of them we originally met in the beginning at different social events that Lyft would have, especially. Others, like through Facebook, there's one group, they have a weekly breakfast meeting. Another group is having like online Zoom type meetings now.
Really?
And we would meet in restaurants and IHOP in the middle of the night, or Bob and Edith's, which is a all night restaurant, and we'd even go on trips together. Some of us, we become close friends.
Really? So you guys have these Facebook groups full of Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, and you guys really...
We have this little group. We talk to each other. You want to join us? But it's kind of disbanded now, and my phone's been acting up. I haven't been able to get on Zello. I miss my friends a lot.
I mean, I guess it's a space because, talking to you today, you have, and again, I don't think that all drivers are as patient as you are. But I mean, the stuff that you deal with, the guy with the crack pipe peeing in your car, the people trying to have sex in the car, the people screaming and yelling and threatening and all sorts of stuff. It's hard to find people who can relate to you on that level, and really making friends with these other drivers and going out for breakfast and going on trips and hanging out. Like these are your people. They're in your industry. They get it. They understand what who you are.
And like you said earlier, there's a lot of turnover. So a lot of them that I know that are friends are no longer in it and doing other things. Yeah. But
it does seem that it's promoted more as a temporary job or as a transitional job or something. People do it on the side. It's like the side hustle to have. But in reality, at least for you, this isn't a side hustle. This is the hustle.
Yeah.
This is what you do. We talked a lot about the crazy people you picked up, the people on drugs, the insanity you've dealt with. What are some of the more touching, more, softer side of humanity that you get to see? Because I can imagine, as a rideshare driver, you get exposed to so many different people from different walks of life, right? Yes, you're picking up the politicians, you're picking up, the big shots and the big names and the whatever, but at the same time, I feel like you're dealing with a lot of people who are, you're picking them up from the hospital, who have cancer, who are sick, who are immigrants working 3 jobs and share their life stories with you. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about that? About what kind of
all those things you said. Like I learned all about sickle cell anemia from a passenger I picked up who had to go to the ER. How painful that is. I didn't know much about it. So we do pick people up the ER. Sometimes you pick people up who are crying. Something just tragic happened in their life. I had a gentleman who didn't tell me the end of his ride, but he had just lost his wife to COVID a couple days before that. So you really got to have empathy for people. Even sometimes they take a little while to get out of the house. And one day I had this gentleman. He went past the 5 minutes, and after 7 minutes, he came out. He could hardly walk. He was going to a dialysis session. I had to help him into the strip center there in Alabama and Pennsylvania. He was that weak. So you don't know it. You mentioned immigrants. I picked up at a guy. I think it's the Mexican restaurant there across from Capital One Arena, Oyamel maybe. He was a manager there. He was a day manager at that sub shop that Jiffy that delivers in 5 minutes. So he was manager at 2 different sub shops or 2 different restaurants, worked 80 hours a week. But he was so happy, because he was home. He used to work on a cruise ship, and he never just got to see his wife or his kids. And now they were having their third child, and he was going to be able to get to witness it. He had plans to buy a home in Maryland. And even though he's working 80 hours a week, not sleeping that much during the week, he's one of the happiest passengers you'll ever see. You know, he's just thrilled for that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and then that, you know, kind of goes back on what I was saying earlier, is that really the difference between a good day and a bad day is just your attitude. It's like if you're have the right mindset and you're a healthy person with, a healthy attitude, you're going to treat your Uber driver correctly, and you're going to, be a decent human being and therefore be a pleasant person to be around. And if you're not in a good headspace and you're in a, it's not about who you are. You can work 80 hours a week, 3 jobs, and be the happiest go lucky person, or you can live in a mansion and be depressed.
Yeah. There's a lot of people doing that. Yeah, and we get people like they're struggling, especially talking about poverty, and violence. I had a young man once who was talking to his girlfriend, and he was afraid he was going to get killed because somebody who killed his best friend, he said, according to the way he was saying it, beat the rap and was out on the streets, and he was trying to stay low, and his girlfriend, people were saying he was a coward. So there's people that have challenges like that. I don't have that challenge. Another young woman I picked up at a building, there was no front door. She said the landlord was a slumlord. Nobody was paying the rent, especially during COVID right now, that somebody had just drove by and shot up their vestibule sometime before that and wounded 2 girls because they knew the guy they wanted to get on a retaliation hit was like in that building, but they just went by and shot. And she was a friend of somebody who just got killed up in Petworth, a couple days before. So, people have struggles that I can't even imagine,
Yeah. It really puts things into perspective when you see so many, you pick up this millionaire and then the next person you pick up is living in poverty, and they almost cross paths, and it's like everyone lives in a bubble, and this rich person will never, understand the struggles of this poor person. This poor person will never understand the life of this rich person, but you get to see them all within 6 minutes of each other, and you hear about, what they complain about versus what they complain about or what their days are going through, and it really like puts things into perspective of like, this is, I don't know, the way you can really see humanity outside of a bubble. You get to see it multifaceted in a lot of different.
Yeah, and they all have hopes and dreams. I mean, that young woman I was talking about lived in the building without the door. She wanted to get her GED. She wanted to get out of there. They all have hopes and dreams. And there's a spirit about DC, maybe that more so than other cities. I think, there's just the spirit that we can perhaps escape this. We can do something about it. I don't sense a hopelessness in DC. I don't know if every city's like that, but there's people feel they can make their lives better if they just focus on it here. I feel.
Talk to me a little bit about what it's been like since COVID, since the landscape has shifted a lot driving for Uber since Corona happened. You've been driving throughout this entire pandemic.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I need the money. I actually thought I in my head I was calculating. That's where you calculate that it would probably be about a 20% chance I'm going to die. So I went out and got like life insurance, which is pretty easy to get, and but I needed the money. But now it just seems like for us, it's actually things are a little better. It was busier and there's less traffic, and we don't have any more shared rides. But it is something that's bonded us all. We all, remember I told you a gentleman who lost his wife. I pick up people at nursing homes who tell me like they've had patients pass away or even staff pass away. It's all something we're just all, frustrated with. We want it to be over, but, it does bring us closer together, I think.
Would you pick up somebody with COVID?
If I knew they had, probably not. If I was told that you talked about a line, that would probably be a line.
All right, I'm glad that we finally found a line that you.
Yeah, if they were like coughing and sometimes you get people from what I understand like they have allergies or they sneeze, but if they had like that sick dry cough, that would and they said, if they had COVID, that would be,
that would scare you a little bit.
Yeah, just say, I just don't feel for $7 I should have to risk my life.
Definitely not. How much do ratings and reviews matter?
When I was a new driver, I used to read every one. Now I'm proud. I see, like, sometimes you look at the app, you see your ratings, and I'm a 5 on Lyft and a 4.97 on Uber, but
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't read ever any comments anymore.
You don't?
No.
Does it matter to you? Like, do you care if your rating goes down, or are you like, it is what it is?
If it went too low, I'd care. If it like went below 4.8, yeah. Because, at 4.6, they can deactivate you.
Really?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that drivers can get deactivated for?
Safety, inappropriate behavior, driving under the influence, low ratings. Like,
do you feel like you have protection though with these companies? Do you feel like you're just another profile and another number?
Yeah, more the latter, but I've been with them so long that I think because of that, like the most recent accusation I had of being under the influence, I'm saying, hey, look, I drove 14 people that day. Nobody else said it. I've done for you, it was Uber, 9,000 rides. Nobody's ever, and I'm a 4.97. I don't drink, I don't do drugs. You can look at my social profile, whatever, but they could just say, "Oh, we decided to deactivate you," and that would be it.
Who do you talk to in the situation?
It's just some
like this?
person in the chain of command, probably a low position person who's, I don't know. It's just an email you get with a first name on it.
If the CEO of Uber or Lyft was watching this video, what message would you want to send to them? What would you want them to know? What would you say?
As far as like that, yeah,
well, as far as anything, you have an open platform now as a driver, and
I'd say, well, first off, I appreciate the opportunity. As far as things they could improve, we just don't know what the review process is. It would be nice if the review process, when there was a complaint, was more transparent. We're just waiting to see if we stay with or not, and then if we're deactivated, which then we don't even know what the tipping point was, what caused it. That would be nice if it was more transparent.
If you knew like behind the scenes, what they were.
Yeah, perhaps. But as long as I've been there, I guess it could happen to me. But if you're a new driver with 500 rides and you're falsely accused, I wonder what they do. If that person, they say, hey, we don't want to take a risk. This person might have been drunk. If they let them go, is that fair? Maybe there should be some sort of appeal process.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, I don't know. I think that cameras should be mandatory in the cars. I think that Uber and Lyft should provide cameras.
Yeah. I wonder how that works though. Is that legal in all 3 jurisdictions here without permission?
I think that when you sign Uber and Lyft, you like police officers now have to have, body cams.
Yeah.
That it should be a thing. You sign up to be an Uber and Lyft driver. There's a camera in your window provided by Uber and Lyft. The part of the terms and agreements is that you agree to be on camera, and every single ride is recorded, because there's in today's day and age with the technology that we have, and there's so much he said, she said. You have no idea what happened, and it's just, I think it would keep everyone safe. It would really keep the driver safe, keep the passenger safe.
Yeah,
from both sides.
Yeah, you might have talked me into it. I might. And I'm more concerned though with like accidents, just having a dash cam, like in case I'm in an accident, It's not my fault. I don't want to be like my insurance to go up.
Have you ever been pulled over in the middle of a ride?
Just once, I remember at the University of Maryland, I was looking really hard, trying to see if there's a no turn on red, and how at night sometimes it's hard to see. But there must have been, and I turned right on red, and immediately a cop pulled up behind me.
Gave you a ticket?
Yeah.
What did your passenger do?
She just complained to the cop that she's in a hurry and can he hurry up?
Which I'm sure was very effective.
Yeah, she had been drinking, and it's like, here I am taking these drunk people home. Why you got to give me a ticket?
Did the drunk people, do they bother you? Do you prefer not to pick up drunk people, or you do not care?
I prefer not drunk. Sometimes they repeat themselves a lot. I had one guy. No, he wasn't drunk. Sometimes they get loud. You know, I once had a guy, I don't think, he might have been drinking, but his buddy / landlord had just angered him. And the whole trip to a hotel, he was saying, I should fuck him up. I need to fuck him up. You know, it's like 10 minutes. He goes, and he was half crying. How could he do this to him? He's my friend. And it was all over an air conditioner that he let somebody else use. But I'm thinking, man, there's COVID. You shouldn't be talking that loud. I rolled the window down all the way, you know.
Do people tip you often?
You know, only about maybe 15% of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Have people ever tipped you in anything other than money?
I once had a woman give me some banana nut bread. I love banana nut bread. I could eat that for every meal.
That's actually really, really sweet.
Yeah, and I think that was, but that was more because I was telling her I was going to go eat after her ride, and she mentioned she had some. But you know, mostly it's either cash or they put it on the app. Yeah, I've never really. I can't think. I think one driver told me once somebody left some marijuana for him.
That is the thing. A lot of people come in smelling like marijuana.
Yeah, and you make your eyes water sometimes. Yeah.
Really? So somebody tipped their Uber driver marijuana.
Yeah, I forget who told me that, but one of my friends told me that. Yeah.
That's kind of
for me. That'd be nothing. I once tried to smoke it when I was young in the Army, and it made me cough, and I just gave up. You know, went back to beer.
It's not your thing. I think that's so funny to tip your driver in marijuana.
Yeah,
because in DC it's pretty much legal now.
Yeah,
you can buy it but not
possess
sell
it. Yeah,
you can possess it. Yeah, so it's not. I mean, it's been decriminalized in most places, but I guess tipping.
Sometimes if they smell really strong, though, if you give a passenger 3 stars, you'll never get them again.
Right.
I might give them 3 stars because even though they were nice and it's legal, I just don't want my car all stunk up like that anymore. So.
Yeah, you got to keep Febreze in your car.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Do you have a list of essential items that you keep in your car?
Mainly paper towels and upholstery cleaner because upholstery cleaner is really important, and because you never know what food's going to get spilled or whatever, and paper towels, the Bounty, which are stronger.
You let people eat in your car?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Yeah, after the ride, I'll just wipe down the seat, and the crumbs will go on the floor mat. I pull out the floor mat, shake it out. Yeah.
You ABC News did a little report on you as heroes of the pandemic, people that are working, during the times of Corona. How did that come about for you?
Another friend of mine, they talked to her first. But she had recently had a heart attack and was only doing Instacart. And she said, I know this guy, he's like 70 and he has health problems. Well, I was 65 and I have high blood pressure. I said, you think I was 70? Come on, And so they were just referred to me and I think that's how you found me too, through another driver who's not driving right now. So,
yes.
But I wasn't really a hero. I just need the money, So
to you, the risk of no money is higher than the risk of Corona.
Yeah, I think probably because I should be better prepared and I'm not, and I'd be too embarrassed to ask for much help now because it's my own fault that I'm in such a situation, So I don't even know who I would ask. My kids.
What's the what? And we're gonna do a little bit of lightning round over here. We're running a little bit, towards the end. What's the shortest trip you ever had?
Oh, probably a block.
A block?
But I made more per mile on that trip probably than any other trip.
Is it out of laziness?
The lady just didn't know where she didn't know how far the place was. She was from out of town.
What do you do if somebody smells really bad?
I breathe through my mouth.
Have you had that?
Yeah.
People just
and then you got Febreze.
Not showered.
Yeah, maybe wait a while. Febreze. Yeah.
You ever
roll
had
the window down?
You ever had people try to bring super strange items or objects into your car?
No, not really. People bring drinks sometimes, but I don't always see because they get in toward the back. And then after the ride, I'm looking in the back and there's a beer can on the floor. It's like, oh, jeez.
But like people don't a lot of times I'll hear people will try to use Uber instead of a U-Haul when they're moving.
Yeah, I've had small furniture and plants, but yeah.
Plants?
Yeah.
A lot of.
Yeah. golf clubs. I mean, that's not that. You pick people up there in Haynes Point, the golf course.
Really quick, I know we gotta wrap up here, but what is the takeaway from this, from driving Uber? I mean, you know, the good, does the good outweigh the bad?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, it's made me more empathetic, more patient, more understanding of people, less bigoted. I don't really consider myself ever to be a bigot, but I got to admit, I grew up in a little town in Pennsylvania that was all white. In the military, I met people from different backgrounds, but still coming to a city, with all you see on the news and never having lived in a city before and picking people up, in neighborhoods that, were outside of Northwest where everything's high end. At first, there's a little bit of nervousness, but after a while, that nervousness like totally disappears and you just see them as anybody else as you would Northwest or would, at any side of DC. So I think if everybody drove Uber and Lyft and everybody realized people were just the same, some of the toughest looking profiles turn out to be funny nerds. You pick somebody up and he looks like, man, that guy looks tough. And he's like, an intellectual, he's smart, he's clever, he's funny. You just can't judge people by the cover. And we all know that deep down. But how many, especially white people, how many white people are the only white person in a room full of black people? Right. And mostly it's the other way around. Black people have to be like surrounded by white people. But being Uber and Lyft, it puts you in that position a lot. And you just realize people are people and there's no different.
It opens your eyes to different diversity, to different people, to different groups. And you really see that there's so many different, humanity is so multifaceted. I wanted to ask you, you keep track of all the names.
I started as a hobby, like during COVID. I have 2,000 names now. Yeah.
So you've done 2,000 rides just during COVID.
Yeah.
And you keep track of the most interesting names. What are some of the most fascinating names of people you
Fascinating. When you say, well, some of them have nicknames, One guy the name had Scumbag, another one had Stupid. And when I pulled up, I didn't say, hi, is this stupid? I just said, hi, are you going to such and such?
I saw it. You posted it on your Facebook. One of them was Drive Faster.
Yeah, Drive Faster. I thought that was clever. I was thinking, well, you got the right guy here, And then just some of the people are so creative now with names. It's unbelievable. Like names like, Jasmine, which is Jismine. So I had one that was Jazzman, like Jazz Man.
They'll spell it differently.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see what are the popular names. Like pretty much Kevin, John, Michael. They're the big popular names with men.
Yeah. I always end each episode with advice for people after listening to this, and people are like, you know what, this sounds like the perfect job for me. What advice would you give to people wanting to drive for Uber and Lyft after?
Yeah, well, first off, if you're going to do it full time, you got to be in a major market. If you're up like in southern Pennsylvania, where I'm from, it would be tough to do it full time. There's not enough business, too much competition. But here, there's always business. And if you're going to do it in a major city, you got to like to drive. You got to be aware that the money isn't what it seems to be. That you're going to have expenses. And that your insurance under Uber and Lyft, if you're in an accident and it's your fault and their deductibles, or the Lyft is $2,500, Uber is $1,000. So you got to be prepared for those kind of expenses. So you can't live by the seat of your pants. If you own your car, you got to realize it's going to destroy your car. But it can be fun if you like to drive, and you got to take care of your health. Because most people that get an Uber and Lyft gain weight, and try to take enough breaks and try not to overeat, and you might enjoy it, and you might want to stay with it. You might eventually just do it to get you through to something else. Some people I know do it they'll work like crazy just to save money for something they want to do. Maybe they want to invest in a new business or. So they might work 14, 15 hours a day because, interestingly, I think the one app, Uber, lets you work 12 hours a day.
Right.
Lyft 14. But if you work 14 with Lyft, you could go to Uber and work 12 more and work 26 straight hours.
That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
Do you ever like sleep in your car from just working so much?
Especially when I commuted down from Gettysburg, I did it first. But now that I live in D.C., no.
There's a huge amount of sacrifice that goes into just driving and the amount you give up, your time, your space, your car, everything. I mean, just talking to you today, honestly, has just been really, really eye-opening. Really, and I don't say this to all my guests, but you're a special kind of guy. You know, you have the patience of a saint. You will.
Thank you, Grandma.
Nothing phases you. I'm sitting here talking to like my favorite uncle. You know what I mean? Like I would love to have you as an Uber driver. You're so calm. You have a great energy. You accept people. I think that this, from talking to you, this is, to me, my takeaway is the key. Is that you have a genuine love for people.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to, because you can't have 34,000 people coming in and out of your car where they're just a paycheck. Where you're
probably more like 60,000 people because,
multiple passengers per. Yeah, but I mean, all these people in and out of your car, you really have to love what you do. You have to love the people you're picking up. You have to love their stories and their struggles and their, really, really empathize and relate to them and see them as humans and not just as another ride with another. I mean, obviously work is work. But it's really just been very, very eye-opening to see it from this side.
It gives you a chance to I've not always been a good guy in my life. I wasn't that great of a dad, not that great of a husband, but this gives me a chance just to do little simple things that are good and try to make people's lives better. And, scientifically, they show doing good things, for other people makes you feel better. I mean, it releases endorphins. And so it could give you a chance to do that if you have the right attitude.
Right. No, I agree. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, David.
Thank you, Red. It was really fun.
I'm glad you had fun. If you live in the DC area and David happens to be your driver, make sure to leave him a tip, leave him 5 stars, give him a good rating, tell him I say hi.
I'll show you the beautiful city too. It's I love DC.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like you love what you do. It sounds like you love your city. It sounds like Uber and Lyft are lucky to have you both. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Red. Appreciate it. I appreciate you.
And thank you for tuning in, watching another episode of It's My Job to Know Yours. Of course, always like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We're all across social media. We'd love to hear from you. If you have an interesting job, please email us. It's myjobtoknowyours@gmail.com. And yeah, thank you for being a viewer. Check out some of the other episodes, and we will see you on the next one. Well, I just did my job, so now it's time for you to do your job, which is to hit that subscribe button. Because if you don't do your job, I'm going to lose my job, and let's face it, I'm qualified for nothing.